think we answered most of your question, Mark, I believe.
Yep.
Okay.
So I just had one more, and then I'm going to let it go. I've said everything I wanted to say, so I won't take up any more time. So, Attorney Captain, you just said right before our break that this development agreement from the 7th day of April 1997 doesn't mean anything. So my last question, and I'll turn my mic off, is then how can we have an amendment to it? So, and I'll end it there. Thanks. I've had my time.
I believe that your question doesn't have anything to, it does not have anything to do with the item on the agenda. The item on the agenda is a budget amendment. The item on the agenda is not an amendment to the agreement with McClone. So that's why it has nothing to do with the item on the agenda. The McClone amendment was done
May 18th.
on May 18th, 2015. As I recall, was it 8-0?
It was.
The vote was 8-0.
May I say something?
Sure.
This is a very simple issue. We've made agreements. We made an agreement with McClone that we were going to provide them 120 stalls, parking stalls in the Broad Street, Chute Street, or Germania Hall parking lot, or at other location mutually agreeable to the city and developer. That's simple. The other thing that's simple is that, I don't know, at three weeks ago, the Common Council approved a purchase agreement for a purchase of 320 Chute Street in the amount of $290,000. We've made agreements, and now we're stepping back from those agreements. The whole premise of our development agreement for the office tower was that the city is going to get a $12 million project in our downtown that's going to transform our downtown in dramatic positive ways. And the city's obligation, and what was always on the line and expected by the developer, was that the city was going to provide parking for that, and we were also to assist them with some of their land assembly costs. That was in the development agreement from day one. It was approved by the Common Council on May 18th, along with the agreement for McClone. And we can't, the city can't go back on its obligations, or we're in a terrible mess. This whole thing is giving us such a black eye, it's unbelievable. What I hear from the development community, what I hear from brokers, Menasha is garnering this reputation as just being this backward, I don't even know what to call it, but it's got to stop. It's got to stop. Thank you.
Alderman Selinsky.
Thank you. So Pam, what about, I'm understanding here, if we don't make this budget adjustment, we're getting sued. You said this isn't about the parking. This isn't about any contracts. You just said that we're going to get sued, and this is all about a budget adjustment. So is this true? We're going to get sued if we don't make this budget adjustment, and you need a 2/3 vote.
I said that unless the timing of the purchase is changed by agreement of the owners, the city's failure to approve the financing will result in a breach of contract by the city of Menasha. There is a contract that is signed.
Did we see it, and was there adequate discussion about it?
The contract is the offer to a purchase that we approved at the last meeting.
Yeah, but it was contingent on council approval, wasn't it?
And it was approved at the last meeting.
By a different department, but now we had to bring it to council, and we still have to approve it, don't we?
No, by the Common Council. Now we have to pay for what we agreed that we were going to purchase. Yes.
That wasn't in administration,
No, that was on the Common Council agenda last meeting.
and now we're voting for it twice?
Now you're voting to pay for it. You agreed to buy it last time, now you're signing the loan documents, basically. You're paying for it now.
We should have allocated the money first. Shouldn't we have?
How do
If we didn't
you,
have the money, how do we buy something we don't have the money?
how do you allocate money before you want to purchase, before you have a purchase
I have to
agreement?
if I want to buy a house, I better have the money before I sign the agreement.
We have the money to do this. We need the council's approval to do this.
We should have allocated the money. That's what I'm saying. We should have allocated the money first. Is this one of those negative questions again that I can't ask
No.
questions? We tell everybody since
No.
they're 2 years old to ask a lot of questions, and then
So what did, during a closed session on August 17th, you gave Greg and staff, I shouldn't say you because you voted against it, but the council gave staff direction to go out and negotiate a purchase of this lot. And they authorized a not to exceed number. Director Kyle did go out and negotiate that purchase price, brought it back to the Common Council, and the Common Council agreed to it. And it was a 6-1 vote at that meeting to go out and acquire this parcel. What's changed?
so this is the first thing an attorney should have on that document is an out. And we don't have any outs at this point?
I don't.
We
know.
always put an out. Whenever I buy a property, you put an out based on inspection or financing.
It said approval of the council, and the council at the last meeting approved it. I don't know why we keep, as Director Kyle said, why do we keep changing our minds? We've been working on this since April of this year. And now all of a sudden we're turning our, actually we've been working on this since 1997. We agreed to provide this parking in 1997. And now we're trying to say, no, we don't need to anymore?
I never really got a clear answer on back in '97. I wasn't here. You might have been watching, or I don't know if you were
I wasn't here
or
either.
Whatever. That we absolutely have to provide these for 99 years.
Well-
And there is an out in there
That we made an
that we were
agreement.
never brought. I was never brought to attention on that, or the other council.
That out is if the whole project doesn't materialize. Once we make an agreement, the developer lived up to
Okay.
theirs, we should live up to ours. It's that simple. Once you shake your hand and say you're renting this apartment to this person, do you turn around the next day and say, no, I'm not doing it? I mean, we should live up to our agreements. We made these agreements, and now we need to live up to them. Otherwise, as Director Kyle said, who's ever going to come and do anything in Menasha if they think, every time they think they have an agreement, it's going to change in 2 weeks? It's not where we want to be.
I wholeheartedly agree.
So,
Why there was one vote against it, because this thing was so nip and tuck, this whole TIF thing. If there's one thing that goes wrong, all of a sudden the taxpayers are in the dole, and everybody thought, oh, that's a good deal.
well, you've been pretty consistent with your votes all along, Alderman
Well, I
Zinsky.
might have
mean,
varied a
that's-
little bit somewhere.
No, I have them here. You're pretty much,
Yeah, and what were your mistakes?
no, I didn't say it was a mistake. I said you've been
You're
consistent.
insinuating it's a mistake. You were
No.
here for the steam plant. Was that a
No.
mistake?
I'm not saying that this is a mistake. I said you've been consistent with your votes, and that's good. You're not changing your mind.
Point of order. Is there a question?
Okay. No, apparently there's no question.
Thank you.
Alderman Taylor.
The problem is, we didn't take care of the elephant in the room back in April. And that's why we're here. You and Greg were mum when I asked you about this. You couldn't even answer my question. What are we going to do about these 120 stalls? The TIP didn't support it. I didn't know that back then. And Greg's right, this has to stop. These 11th hour massive agreements that we have no time to digest has to stop. And last meeting, when this agreement, you're right, that agreement should have taken a 2/3 vote. And what the city and this administration failed to do was to provide this council legal service. There was no one here to help us with legal service. according to our ordinance, the NINA attorney's supposed to step in, or we're supposed to have somebody else step in. This body had no legal service last week, 2 weeks ago. And now you're shoving that down our throats.
And the question wasn't even asked until after the vote was taken. Wouldn't have mattered.
Should have had a 2/3 vote on that. And this cart before the horse business is got to stop too. That's why we're getting here. If this would have been done, this whole package back in May, we wouldn't be here tonight. And we're very frustrated with it. And Alderman Langdon has great questions with this contract. I don't know if our legal opinion is correct. This body has the right to ask for another legal opinion on it. We have a budget to do that, and we should ask for maybe another budget. I'm going to ask that we table this for 2 weeks.
Is it a motion?
It's a motion.
Is there a second? It's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? I would recommend that we don't. Okay, regarding tabling? It should be regarding the motion on the floor.
It's not debatable.
We'll take a roll call vote. To table.
Motion fails on roll call, 3-5.
In regards to Alderman Taylor's comments, there's never been an elephant in the room. This parking was recognized right from the beginning of the process. What's your point of order?
Cannot debate the chair. It's in our rules. The attorney can go look it up. You can run the meeting, but you can't debate the chair.
I'm going to override and deny the point of order. Does the council wish to?
I'll ask for a parliamentary ruling.
You have the ability, I make the ruling, and I'm saying it's overridden. If the council would like to override that ruling, they can do that. Is there a motion to override? Alderman Taylor, is there a motion to override the ruling? Okay. Right from the beginning, the Common Council directed staff to pursue parking and this development agreement. So on April 27th, after discussions of the McClone Downtown Development parking requirements, the council directed staff to pursue a development agreement with the Menasha Downtown Development Group for a multi-tenant office building and parking ramp. And I have the minutes here for everyone. The motion was 7-0 with Alderman Taylor abstaining. So the Common Council directed us to do that on April 27th. That was the first time this came up. The attorney's directing me that even before that, on April 7th, it came up. I didn't have that one. On May 18th, after a discussion of the McClone Downtown Development parking requirements, the Common Council approved the development agreement with the Menasha Downtown Development and the City of Menasha contingent upon the notification of a CDI grant. And that was on a 7-1 vote. No, I'm not finished yet. I have those. On May 18th, the Common Council approved an amendment to the agreement with McClone Downtown Development allowing the relocation of parking to Germania or any other mutual acceptable locations. And that was on an 8-0 vote. So again, this has been discussed for months.
No, it hasn't. I got the minutes on 53-minute mark. I heard you, and I would like to
discussed.
Put your job on the line, Mayor.
Well, it's been voted on. On July
Right.
6th,
But you, all right, I got like that.
on July 6th, the Common Council approved the creation of TIF District 13 and that included contingent projects, including land acquisition for surface parking in the amount of $400,000. So we even recognized that it might cost more than $290,000 that we're getting it for now at that
Not in the
point.
TIF though,
But we talked about it.
but it's not the TIF.
It's a contingent project within the TIF.
It's not in the TIF.
And then during a closed session, as I talked about, we gave, as a council, we gave direction to city staff to negotiate that purchase of the Germania lot, not to exceed a specific amount, as well as we turned down a motion to purchase the entire property, including the building. And Director Kyle did negotiate a purchase agreement that was within the amount that was required, that was suggested by the Common Council. So, like I said, this is not something that just came up yesterday. We've been talking about this since April. Did you have discussion on anything?
I do, we have been talking, but I'm gonna go back again, and the agreement was in our packet. Isn't it legal counsel to go over an agreement with us?
If aldermen have questions, yes, they could ask those questions. If they voted on it, though, we assume that you understood the agreement, and
So we should understand the agreement with the town of Harrison, which you got our ass kicked.
that's not what we're talking about
I
at this
just wanted to
point.
say that so everybody knows. But again, I'm just gonna go back, Mayor, and just say, at the 53-minute mark, all Attorney Captain said, she did not, and I'll bet your job on it, I'm 100% correct. All she said is, well, we are committed. She didn't explain anything. And she says, I'm tying this in with number 3. I wrote it down. Did not explain nothing to us. Isn't the legal counsel supposed to explain stuff to us? Or, oh, I'm sorry, I have to ask every damn question that is, and I'm sorry, but I don't know everything about politics and city politics, so how can I ask every question? Isn't that why we have legal counsel?
That was her opinion, that we were committed, and I would agree with that opinion. That we agreed to that in 1997, and we should live up to our commitment.
Well, I'm going by the termination rates here.
Even if I don't believe we have that ability, but even if we do, shouldn't we live up to our agreements? Shouldn't we do what we said we were going to do, which is provide those parking stalls? I think we should. Alderman Nichols?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think we've all made up our mind how we're going to vote on this, keeping in mind that we would open ourselves up to litigation if we did not, we'd open ourselves up, it's getting late, I can't form a sentence anymore, open ourselves up to litigation if we don't live up to the terms of our agreement. So, having said that, I'd like to call the vote.
Is there other discussion? Alderman Taylor?
All I want to say is that from the closed session on, I said, just like that projector stand is sitting there, let's consider that the elephant in the room for these 120 stalls. And we can go and review the tapes, and we can show that you wouldn't even answer my question when I said, where's the money coming from for the 120 stalls? So, I hope I get to say this later. After further review of the tapes, we'll see what they say.
Is there further discussion? Seeing none, we'll take a roll call vote, please. Oh, the motion is to approve Resolution 35.
Because it needs a 2/3 vote, the motion actually fails 5-3.
Okay, we'll go back up to the top. Ordinance 16, an ordinance amending Title 11 of the Code of Ordinances regarding residential outdoor lighting. Do we have a motion?
Approve 01615.
It's a motion and a second. Is there discussion? Alderman Benner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I wasn't here at our last meeting when this went through committee, and I agree with the spirit and the intent of this. I just think that some of the language needs to be brought up to current standards, and I think there might be a little bit better way of doing this. So I'd like to meet with city staff and or one of the two co-sponsors for this, just so we can, there's some language changes I think are appropriate and maybe a little different way of doing this. And so I'd like to make a motion to postpone so that I can sit down with, again, either one of the co-sponsors and city staff to take a look at this.
So is that to the next meeting, or do you have a specific date in mind?
Next meeting's fine. Okay. So a motion to postpone would just come back at the next meeting. So.
Is there a second? There's a motion, a second, to postpone to the next meeting. Alderman Taylor?
I was very open with this ordinance. I gave it to the chief, said, tell me what we need for your department. You guys figure it out. Staff had their input on it. This thing's been kicked around in Planning Commission probably the last 2 years, and it just keeps going around. Finally, I thought, let's pull the trigger on it. The people that are been very patient, so.
Alderman Langdon.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll go with Alderman Benner on this. He wasn't here, and I know he's with Alderman Zielinski, myself, and Alderman Taylor about this, and we went, just so Alderman, we went through a lot of stuff last time, and I just, yeah, it would be fair for Alderman Benner to see what he has to say. Maybe have something different than what we said last time, so.
So there's a motion to postpone on the table. Is there a discussion on that? If not, could we have a roll call vote on that, please?
Motion carried on roll call 7-1.
Item 2 is ordinance 17. It's a ordinance amending chapter 13, title 13, chapter 1, regarding zoning, and it's regarding existing mini warehouse and storage facilities. Is there a motion at this point? Alderman Benner.
I'll make a motion for discussion for ordinance 0-17-15 and ordinance amending title 13, chapter 1, code of ordinance for zoning as recommended by the Planning Commission.
There's a motion and a second. Is there discussion? No. Alderman Nichols?
Since there wasn't a motion last time, I wanted to ask Director Kyle if you could tell us more about the discussion that went on in the Plan Commission and what these changes would actually facilitate.
Okay. Well, generally speaking, this amendment will have limited effect. It applies only to the existing mini storage facilities in the C1 and C4 commercial districts. There are 3 of those facilities that I'm aware of in the city of Menasha. This ordinance would allow the expansion of those existing facilities, subject to the application for and approval of a special use permit, which requires action by the Plan Commission and then review and approval by the Common Council. The discussion at the Plan Commission level regarding this proposal sort of centered around the fact that, well, are these facilities, you know, the highest and best use of property, which in most instances, I think the answer would be no. However, we do have a number of them, and by the special use permit process, if there is an expansion we can upgrade those sites so that there is landscaping, the parking lots get paved, there's decent lighting, and we would have some control over the appearance of these facilities, given the likelihood that they will not be going away anytime soon, given that, we have sort of an accelerating demand for that self-storage kind of function, especially now in light of the fact that we're losing a great number of them up along the 441 corridor. So I think that sort of captured the essence of the discussion, is that we're not necessarily in the business of promoting mini storage, but in certain instances where they already exist, we can likely improve the appearance of those facilities should they want to expand, and then we can apply our zoning requirements to that.
And could you tell us where those 3 facilities are?
There's one on Manitowoc Road, adjacent to the Winneganey Dog Club, just east of the fire station. There are 2 in the Midway Road corridor, one behind Waters Plumbing and the other behind Tesh Chemical.
Okay, thank you.
Alderman Langdon?
Thank you, Mayor. So Greg, I'm not sure, so that's why I'm going to ask this question. With this rezoning, would it be able to say across from the post office, that empty lot there, would somebody be able to put a mini storage there?
No, because this is only applicable to sites where there is already a mini storage facility on that parcel.
Okay, so they wouldn't be popping up in
No.
Menasha? No. Okay. I gotta think about my vote, because the one by the dog club, as we know, is Mr. Geets.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess I'm going around in my
Be
head.
careful about what you say about specific people.
Oh, I'm
You've
sorry.
been threatened to be
Well-
sued by several
Well,
of
we've
them,
been threatened to be sued,
yeah,
so
so
I'm
just be careful about
yeah.
not making it specific to anyone.
Okay, so there was an individual and threatened a lot of people in this room, and I don't think any of us like that, so I'm debating whether or not I like this because of that. I mean, we're giving that person
If I might
Yeah.
suggest, that property could be sold tomorrow, and so the ownership really is not, at
The
least
deal.
in my opinion, should be a consideration here. I think we need to look at, will this amendment have a positive impact on the function and appearance of the community, or will it not? And I think where the Plan Commission ended up there was kind of lukewarm. I think this will have the opportunity to make things a little better.
Okay, and there won't be coming in
And
empty
there won't be
lots
any
in the city.
more in,
Okay.
Alderman Taylor?
Last thing Menasha needs is apartment complexes and storage sheds. We're a landlocked community. We got to think of the future. All our land is precious to us. This is something the townships have. Put these out in the townships and they fit right in. Thank God that one's going to be gone by Bontas, by Midway Road. Going around that corner, looking at that, it was disgusting that we have open storage like that in our city. And this council was bamboozled when we got that. We were told, can't build nothing out there, gotta have the storage sheds, Well, we had a lot of offices out there too. And we don't need any more. We have our fair share, and they don't provide any jobs. And I don't care how you fix them up, how you landscape them, still storage sheds. And they don't provide any jobs for the community whatsoever. Let's save our precious land and let's provide jobs. We have our fair share of these. We have our fair share of non-conforming duplexes, and we got our fair share. We have 40% of rental property, and we need to make smart choices here. not just for us now, but for the future. And we don't need to expand these anymore in our community.
Alderman Benner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There are two things with this that was attractive to me. First one is that the reason this came before the Plan Commission was because there is an existing facility that presently has outdoor storage, and they want the ability to close in, to put a building up to get rid of the outdoor storage. I'm sorry, there are three things that was attractive to me. That was the specific one that landed on the table why this happened. The second thing that it was that it's only for existing facilities that were built prior to January 1, 1991. So you can't build a new one and then call it existing and then continue to expand it. The third thing is that it's only done by a special use permit. So it still has to get approved. They make their application, comes before the Plan Commission, and Greg, correct me if I'm wrong, and then the Plan Commission says yay or nay, whether they agree with it, and then it has to come before the council. Correct? So you still have the ability to say no. And in the interim, it still takes, for me personally, for District 8, this one that it affects right now, he wants to build an addition onto the existing one to remove his outdoor storage. That is an eyesore. So to me, it made sense. And because we still have control whether it goes forward or not. So that was the rationale. That's the reason I approved. That's the reason I believe it made it through the Plan Commission to get this far. And I don't see as to where it gives anybody the right to say, I have an existing mini storage facility and I'm going to put an addition on because I have an ordinance to support it. They have to come ask for permission to do that. And if we don't give it to them, they can't do it. So that was the rationale. That's why I made the motion to approve. That's the rationale that I believe it got through the Plan Commission to get this far, and why it's before us today. Thank you.
Seeing no other discussion, could we have a roll call? Oh, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. So, Greg, Alderman Taylor mentioned apartments. Doesn't have to do with this, does it? No. Okay. And Alderman Benner, that's in your district, and he just wants to cover it, and I keep it. Okay, and that's why this is before. So, all right, thank you.
Alderman Zelinski, look at what you opened up, Mark.
Okay, this one that has the open spots, was this allowed at the beginning? Are we just changing something just to make something compliant now? Does anybody have the records how this outdoor storage came into being? And is it legal today?
Well, in the instance of here on Manitowoc Road, that property was zoned industrial, okay? And then some time ago, the city initiated a rezoning of a number of properties out there. Some were zoned industrial, we had some two-family, and in any rate, the property ended up being rezoned from industrial, wherein the mini storage facilities are permitted use. Now it was zoned commercial, where they're not allowed at all, okay? So that put, and this was done with the former owner, not with the current owner of that property. So there's, that little element in there as well. But they had an existing operation that was ostensibly, approved under the zoning that existed at the time, and now we migrated into a higher zoning classification, which rendered it non-conforming, and therefore he did not have the ability to extend that use.
So this was this always city where it was zoned to become a storage? I don't know how old the storage unit is.
Yeah, it's,
And we approved it as the city of Menasha?
well, you know, there was a different time out there. There was no sewer and water, and there were things built like the dog club and this mini storage, and that didn't require, you know, higher services. And well, as things transitioned, we were looking at that corridor being more of a residential area, and the Plan Commission, we amended our comprehensive plan, and we looked at what made sense, and we moved forward with the rezoning of those properties in that general vicinity that was approved by the council. So that's why in this instance we have the nonconformity there. And likewise up on Midway Road, similar scenario there where those properties were zoned industrial, and then were brought into the C, I think one is C1 and the other is C4. So, you know, we kind of changed the rules in the middle of the game with the rezoning, which has now created the scenario where the businesses can't, you know, really do much.
I don't have any timelines on here. I'm just confused on, are we creating this ordinance to correct the problem that we weren't enforcing? Is this guy in compliance with where he has his storage now, or did this outdoor storage just kind of expand and all of a sudden, hey, we gotta get this cleaned up, let's change the ordinance? And
Yeah, the use of the property didn't change, but the ownership has changed. So I would classify what's in all three instances existing non-conforming uses.
so when ownership changed, did anything change with that?
No.
That he had to bring up some kind of standard of landscaping or anything, or?
No.
Kind of odd.
No. I mean, if it's just a change of ownership, that doesn't
We
kick
do
it.
that on commercial buildings all the time.
If it's a change of occupancy, the nature of occupancy of the building, if you go from like a retail to a place of assembly or that kind of thing, where there's a change in the classification of building or the type of occupancy, then that comes into play. But if, you know, you're just selling, you know, your property on Plank Road to me, I can continue operating it just the same way that you did.
Without the city
any,
saying there's any enhancements that gotta be done?
well, other than, now you promoted this ordinance with regard to paving of the parking.
Yeah.
So when that comes along, then when there's a change of ownership, then if we're made aware of that, then we notify the owner of that
I'll have to
circumstance.
correct you on that, Greg. In the last budget, the state made time of sale ordinances illegal, so we can no longer enforce any of those time of sale restrictions. Was it part, I think it was part of the budget, but it might not have been.
So, I guess that's a null and void.
Okay. Exactly.
Thank you, Madison. How do you clean up your city if you can't even?
They do know best.
Yes, they do. So, I don't know if this use expanded, this outdoor use. Are we ever gonna know?
Well, it wouldn't be able to expand outdoors. What he's proposing to do in this
Close
instance
it.
is to put it indoor.
And add on how many more?
I don't, there's maybe 60 feet back there. There isn't a lot of room.
In your opinion, this would be better for the area than what we have now?
Well, as Alderman Benner had indicated, I think it gives us an opportunity to clean up these places because they have to apply for their special use permit, which then engages the landscaping and building material and all the other requirements.
I agree, but this council has a hard time saying no other than maybe one or two people. Because
It hurts to differ with that question based on tonight.
It hurts feelings. Okay, if you think this is the better way to clean these up, I can support it, but I don't want the expansion of storage buildings in the city of Menasha.
Yeah.
That's not what this
We
is
we
gonna...
won't be seeing any more in the commercial districts. That's not what this is. It's about those few that already exist.
Okay, thank you.
So we have a motion on the table at this point to approve ordinance 17. We could have a roll call vote, please.
Motion carried on roll call 6-2.
Okay. Number 3 is ordinance 19. It's an ordinance amending Chapter 9, Title 9, Chapter 6 of the Code of Ordinances regarding the methodology for billing stormwater charges for duplexes.
Okay, I'll make a motion to pass 019-15, an ordinance amending Title 9. I want to make another amendment to the amendment.
But first, we need a second.
Okay.
There's a motion and a second. Now, if you want to make an amendment
I
to it,
want
you
to
can
make
do
an
that.
amendment to the amendment that we charge each parcel 1 ERU, which would be not including duplex condos. Those are separate parcels. I need some clarification on duplex condos. Are those listed as separate parcels when they have a 0 lot line duplex?
That's clarification
some
first, if that's
clarification.
what he's...
Pam, could you, 0 lot line duplexes, are they separate parcels? Duplex condo, well, they call them duplex condos, but they're condominiums. There's some massive ones out on the east side of town.
Proceed. Okay. The attorney has questions what we're doing here. Okay, so there's a motion to approve the ordinance and a second.
On duplexes.
Okay, no, just wait, just approve the ordinance. And then, no, and then Alderman Zelinski made a motion to amend the ordinance on the table to change basically the .75 to .5, right? Is that what
Yes.
you're looking to do?
Yes.
Okay. And what he was asking was, yeah, he needs, well, he needs to ask the question to make sure his amendment is what he thinks it is, I guess is what he's asking here. So what your question is a twin-dominium the same as a duplex? Are they on
Yes.
one lot?
Can you give one to Peggy?
Some of them are that way and some of them are duplexes.
So Greg is, Alderman Zelinski is wondering if a duplex would be on one parcel, would a twin-dominium be on one parcel or on two parcel, a 0 lot line? Or is,
Give one to
Okay.
Peggy. She's probably gonna be interested in some of this maybe not.
We have, like out on Sugar Bridge, we have both scenarios. We have,
Dan, he's trying to answer.
okay, out on Sugar Bridge, we have both scenarios. Some of those are duplexes, so there's 2 dwelling units on a single lot. And
Yes.
others in there have a lot, a separate lot that goes down the
Yes.
common wall.
Yeah, we were bringing them through the council once in a while to where we divide
Through a
them.
CSM, yep.
And then they become separate parcels. But until they're separate parcels, they're basically classified as a duplex, aren't they?
Yes.
So that's part of my next motion is these condominiums, they are separate parcels and they would be billed as separate parcels. If my amendment to this amendment goes through, the ones that are determined as condos that are 0 lot line that have a joining wall in the middle, they are separate parcels, and my proposal would be that they'd be billed separately as one ERU because they're separate parcels, even though the wall is right.
But Mark, wouldn't they be billed that way because of That's how the billing for the, that's how we would bill them, correct? Based on their parcel and their meter?
Now they each be billed one. Okay, that's what they're currently billed, and I'm not proposing to change that if they are duplex condos, because their tax bill is coming separately for each of those units, because it gets a little bit confusing when you get the east side of town. They didn't split a lot of these yet, but they will be split at some point. Because someone brought to my attention that there's massive duplexes on the east side of town. I agree with you. Some of these are bigger than my house, and there's two of them together. They are massive. And I see where the classification would be a problem on that. But then going back to why I changed it to 1 ERU versus 0.75 for each parcel, or 0.5 for a duplex, is because there's no lots that are identical in this whole city. You can't track where the stormwater is going. You don't know if it's going in the backyard, puddling and settling into the ground. You can't tell if it's coming out to the street. And I don't want you going from lot to lot tracking where the stormwater is going, or the measurements of these things, because at this point, I guess we don't want to do that, or we don't have the staff. So I'm just doing the fair thing and say each parcel is 1 ERU, whether it's a duplex or a single family, because in my district, there were some duplexes, there were 2 family houses that were changed to single family. But the first thing they did after they bought them is add the driveway and build a big garage in the back, which increased their stormwater impervious surface. And it increased the demand on whatever stormwater, but we still can't pinpoint where this water is going and whether it's being treated or not. So I thought, in all fairness, every parcel should be 1. And a duplex would be cut in half until such time that we get to the point where we can measure these and classify them. And that's why I handed out those papers from every community. That's what they're doing to make this thing fair. They are splitting them.
Can I just ask what the amendment is?
Okay.
I'm having trouble following it.
The amendment would be, there would be 1 ERU per parcel.
And what section are you proposing to put that into?
What do you mean, what section? Into this
Well, this is an ordinance amendment, and it's under charge formulas.
Yeah.
And all we have here is parents
was
too.
gonna be 0.75 for duplexes. I'm just making duplexes as 1. And then the bill would be split between the 2 tenants.
So you'd just like to change that to 0.5 rather than 0.75?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so the amendment that's on the floor is to change in item 2, duplex 2-family parcel charge to 0.5 ERU fee times number of dwelling units.
Yes.
Okay, and we need a second for that. There's a motion and a second.
I had Peggy run the numbers on that. It increases it to $3 per year, which comes to 25 cents a month. That would probably cost the single-family homeowner 25 cents a month to make this fair across the board.
So that's a 0.5 on both of, it's in there twice, is that correct?
25 on a duplex, each address.
Duplex.
9-6-9 parents 2 shall be the fee of 0.5 ERU per living unit existing on the property, and then under that is duplex 2-family parcel charge is 0.5 ERU, is that correct? So it's in 2 places? Okay.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that they were both on there. Look at one of those.
I did more research on this thing than I wanted to, and I found out that there's no 2 lots the same in the city. And to classify one house over another is not fair until such time that we can measure them and come up with a strategy of how do we come up with this number? Because every other community, you look at Neenah, for instance, less than 1,700 is 0.5. between 1,700 and 4,600 is 1. And then more than 4,600 is 2. It's not that hard to come up with that measurements of the available housing stock in the city of Menasha. You could do this probably relatively easy, because I remember getting my house sized and they gave me an aerial view from the heavens and say, this is your house. And this is where you can build, and this is where you can add on, or you can't do this and you can't do that. So it's not impossible. But this would be the fair way to do it until such time that we want to categorize these houses and their sizes.
Is more discussion? Dan,
If
are
there's
you
any
done?
questions for me.
Yeah. Is there further discussion? Alderman Nichols?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
This is just on the amendment at this point?
Well, it's hard for me to discuss the amendment alone without discussing the whole situation. I'm taking issue with this. I'm not sure if a point of order is appropriate or what I should do here, but we have an ordinance on the agenda, an ordinance change on the agenda. We've been talking about this for months. The ordinance change has now presented to the public. We have city code that says ordinances should appear on agenda 2 times before they're passed, and now we're talking about amending an ordinance that we've been discussing for months. Quite frankly, I didn't even know what I was voting on at the end of the last meeting. I had one interpretation of the motions, and the clerk had another interpretation of the motions. So I think if we're going to vote on anything, we should vote on the agenda, on the ordinance that's on the agenda. That's my 2 cents.
Further discussion? Alderman Benner?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In spirit, I struggle with all the information we're just given right now, and I've been part of this whole ERU saga pretty much since I got elected and I was on the Plan Commission, and how we get to the square footage. And I think it was all agreed that to do square footages and all those things like these other ordinances would suggest was too problematic, especially at the time with the resources that we had, whether it be our information technology or staff time, consulting dollars, whatever it is. So the decision was made to do what we did, and that doesn't mean that at this stage of the game you may revisit that. I don't necessarily disagree. Part I'm struggling with right now is with the information we're given, and with does this have to be voted on tonight because we need to get on with budget issues? If so, then I agree with Alderman Nichols that we really don't have time to digest and debate what was just presented to us. Not that I don't think it deserves to be debated and all that, it's just to have it land right here and then vote on it in 5 minutes is kind of hard. My next thing I was going to do is I was going to turn over to Peggy and ask her the financial impact of this. Are we still going to be able to make our budget numbers in 2016 if we do this? But it's not fair to her to ask her that, because I just handed her the information that was handed to me, and to see how that all fits into the budget. So it's really not fair to her for me to even ask her that question, unless of course she wants to jump in with a couple feet and well, even with what I know you said you did, I'm looking at this, and just at a glance I can see what was projected for 15 was projected for 16, but I don't know how much money we need, what our shortfall is, any of those things. There's a lot of information that I need to make for me to make my vote fair, and I am by no stretch disagreeing with Alderman Zelinski with his mindset, but I don't think in the time that we have, and at 10:35 at night, and we're not done with this meeting yet, and still have half a dozen things to go in a closed session and 2 other committee meetings, frankly, I'm not prepared to sit down and debate it and digest it at this time. So, I guess first I'd like to know is, for budget reasons, does this vote have to happen tonight? Well, I guess, and it would, Alderman Taylor may be right, but I think for me to vote on the amendment, which would lead to the vote on the ordinance change altogether, depends upon whether we can actually make a good decision at this point. Because just to say that in spirit, I agree with it, but if it's gonna have a financial impact that the city can't live with, I can't vote on the amendment.
I think I tend to agree with Alderman Benner that you should know to vote on either of them, what kind of an impact it would have on the budget. So if you have any comments, Director Steen?
Not sure where to begin. The analysis that I put together on the financial needs that's included with the resolutions, I did a number of months ago. So what I was showing you at that time, the attachment to the resolutions, was saying that the stormwater utility is in dire need of cash, a rate increase, and if we want to come out of 2015 in a decent spot, we should proceed with that. Sitting where we're at right now tonight, nothing for 2015 is going to come to pass as far as what we needed. If the methodology of billing changes, I've already been notified by the utilities that that's not going to happen real soon anyway. I can't think of a good reason that it has to go tonight. In fact, I would probably rather have a little bit of time. With that said, we're also trying to put together a budget, and there's only so many hours in the day.
So with that being said, I'm looking for a little, now, as Alderman Taylor pointed out, we're talking about the amendment. If I were to make a motion to postpone, how does that work with the amendment in the original motion?
They would all go together.
Then I think at this time I would make a motion to postpone.
Is there a second? Is that to the next meeting, I should ask?
Yes.
Okay. There's a motion and a second to postpone. Is there any discussion on the motion to postpone? Oh, Kevin, could you turn that up?
Oh, sure.
Alderman Taylor?
I don't think that's proper Robert Rules of Order, but the time is late, and I can live with that. But here we have handout upon handout tonight upon handout, and all of a sudden now it's an issue. The mayor hands out page after page. It's okay, you know. Are we going to have this rule in this body or not? Should we live by it or shouldn't we live by it? You know, I don't care, one way or the other. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you.
Alderman Zelinski?
I'm out of energy.
This is about postponing it to the next meeting. This isn't about the topic at hand.
Well, last meeting we were told we were in dire straits, we gotta get this done. That's what I was told. We need the money now. Well, there's never, and that was Alderman Benner's question. What do we need to make this work? Well, the discussion last week was, or 2 weeks ago, we don't have enough money in 2015. We don't have enough money in 2016. We probably don't have enough money for the next 4 or 5 years going forward. And if you didn't know this information before, evidently he wasn't listening to me. For the last 5 years I've been discussing this. How me? Not knowing the information? Well, you know that we don't have any money this month, this year, and I don't even know when 216 rate is going in. Is it going January 1st? I don't know.
That's listed in the resolution. That hasn't changed from the beginning. It was originally October 1st, 2015, July 1st, 2016.
But we've been broke for a long time in this utility. Peggy's been putting out paperwork. Hey, we got to do something now. We got to do something pretty quick here. We're in the red. I don't think I'm forcing this thing through that really that quick. I don't care with the delay, but does Peggy? She must. Now it sounds like it's okay with the delay.
It's not okay, but because I can't get the rates in on October 1st,
Okay.
we just lost another month. So now it's November 1st. So if it happens at this meeting or the next meeting, it really doesn't matter.
So
It's
we're
going
just
to have an
discussing the
effective
delay,
date at
yeah.
the next time.
Okay, we're just discussing the delay right now, and I don't really care if we delay it another couple weeks and bring it up again. Not gonna and I hope the same information will be in there, then they can study in the next packet. I'm just trying to make things fair here, and I didn't think it was gonna be that much of discussion. Thank you.
Director Sino, if there's no change in the billing methodology, can they do it faster, or is it?
That would be correct.
Okay, so if we leave the methodology the way it is, we could implement this for October 1st. If we change the methodology, it would have to wait till November 1st.
That's basically what they're telling me. This is from the utilities. They basically said, if there is no change and it's a simple change, just the amount or the new rate, then yes, it can definitely be done, but they'd need the resolution in the next day or so. If it's a change in methodology, that would not be able to be done, and we would also have to get some kind of an insert created so that we could communicate that to the citizens.
Okay. So, Alderman Nichols?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It appears that we are at an impasse, a roadblock, and we keep piling additional levels onto this ordinance, seeing what'll stick on the wall. I hope within the next 2 weeks we can figure out a way to get through this. I don't know what it is that we need. Staff has spent hours and hours on this, and we up here can't seem to come to a resolution. So I hope within the next 2 weeks, maybe some members of the council contact city staff to talk more about it, answer any questions that they need answered. I hate to say we need a workshop, but we need to do something to get this done. Thank you.
I'm at a loss how this became so complicated by these handles. That's just what the other cities do. If we want to be like the other cities, then maybe we should have a workshop. But I didn't want to bring it to that. I didn't want to put staff on going out to measure properties. I just wanted to make it fair across the board. It is not that complicated.
So the motion that's on the floor right now is to postpone.
I'd just like to comment on that. It's not that complicated, and frankly, I can vote on it tonight, and I'll vote against it if we want to do that, but I just need to know if the dollars work or not. Because if the dollars don't work, then I'll vote against it, and we'll leave it as is, and we'll change it accordingly and move forward. I don't have a problem with it, but if we think that a change is necessary and the dollars work, I'm okay with it. But if not, like if we vote not to postpone, I'm okay with it, but I'm going to vote against it.
Okay, so,
I got one thing.
okay.
Thank you, Mayor. So Peggy, 2 more weeks isn't going to matter on this.
If the methodology changes, 2 more weeks will not matter. If the methodology does not change, it could be done immediately.
But, I mean, is it going to be a real big deal?
$14,000 per month.
$14,000 per month. Okay, thanks.
Okay, so the motion that's on the table right now is to postpone this till the next meeting. Could we have a roll call vote, please?
Motion carried on roll call, 5-3.
Okay, item 4 is ordinance 20, an ordinance amending Title 3, Chapter 1 of the Code of Ordinances regarding budget hearings. Do we have a motion? Alderman Taylor.
Mr. Mayor, I'm going to make this as fast, as quick as possible. I don't care either way what we do, but let me just give you a little background. Other cities have a Saturday where they keep a tight timetable and they go through the budget process and everybody knows who's got to be there at what time. And then if anything spills over, they finish it up at another council meeting before the budget's done. the mayor asked me to pick one date. I wanted to pick three: October 24th, October 31st, November 14th, which isn't deer hunting. The 21st is deer hunting. So the mayor said pick a date. I picked the 24th. You want 4 evening budget hearings, or do you want one probably 7-8 hour day? That's what I have here tonight. So whatever your pleasure is. The only thing I would like to see next year is that this is what we used to do up here. Instead of having this fixed ordinance that says these are the dates you have to have the budget hearings, what we used to do is everybody brought their calendar up with us, and we sat down and said, yeah, that works, that doesn't work. Some of these dates don't work for me, but that's okay. But that really worked well for everybody. Everybody was in agreement. We had our calendars, and it was set that way. So I'd like to see an ordinance change at some point, but whatever this body's pleasure is, I'll make a quick motion that, and I don't care either way where we go with this, but I'm going to make a motion for the 24th of October to have a budget hearing on that date.
That's what's on it. Fourth Saturday in October is the 24th. Okay. So you're going to make a motion to approve the ordinance as drafted, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Is there a second? Is there a second?
A second.
Okay. So there's a motion and a second. Alderman Taylor, could you turn the light off after you're done?
Sorry.
If I can just have an amendment here, I don't know if you noticed, but it says such review session shall start at, and what is currently in the ordinance is 5 p.m. I did not know what time to insert there, so we should probably have an amendment to address what time this would start.
Alderman Taylor, what time did you want that to start? 8 a.m.? 8 a.m., 9 a.m.? Pick a date, pick a time. 9 a.m. Okay, 9 a.m. it is. Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Okay. Alderman Lang, did you have discussion?
Well, I just wanted to make sure, I mean, we never done this, I've never done this in one day, so I just wanted to be okay, make sure it's okay with everybody physically. It'd be hard for me to sit all day, so, I mean, we'll have breaks and lunch or get up, you know, I've never done this, so I'm open to try it, so thanks.
Alderman Benner?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Didn't we originally have 3 evenings and we went to 4?
Yes.
Because I think the sitting alderman for District 2 at that time wanted it to go to 4 nights
guys.
because we couldn't get it done in 3. And have we ever actually got this done in a total of 8 hours? So when I said 5 a.m., I wasn't really joking, because I see this being about a 12-hour day, and then I think about city staff coming in and hanging around and waiting around that they'll get a kind of a time that they're supposed to be here, and then they hang around on a Saturday. It's bad enough we ask them to sit in here till midnight on a council night and be here late for other meetings and come in at night for other civic meetings that we have for committees and things like that, and then we're going to ask them to come in on a Saturday besides, and without really defined times. And I don't know if anybody's noticed, but our debates get kind of lively, and I really don't see it getting done in a single day. And if it goes over, what about the person that we asked, their staff members that we asked to come in, that they sacrifice their Saturday to be here, and then we don't even get to them? I really have concerns with that. You know, we went to 4 nights, and we had a lot of discussion about going to 4 nights, and which I really wasn't in favor of, but the intent was to have a little bit shorter evenings. I don't know if we did or not, but
One year yes, 1 year no.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, our budgets have gotten a lot better. City staff does a wonderful job putting budgets together, and there's very little discussion. They're already pretty much cut down to almost nothing, and the discussions have been going a lot better, so there could be some validity to doing it, but I still struggle with the things that I had mentioned, and especially if city staff would like to interject, I'd love to hear from the staff members we have sitting here, any opinions that they may have.
I don't know if we should put staff on the line here in this one.
I don't know, Greg was kind of vocal tonight already. So I don't know, I struggle with it from that perspective, and you know, of course we'll do whatever the majority wants us to do, and if we do this, I hope it works out well. I just certainly have my concerns. Thank you.
Alderman
Let me
Taylor?
just say that we would have a structured agenda. So if the police department was from 9 to 10, 10 o'clock, we pull the trigger, they're gone. And if we have to make up something, if everybody does their homework and if everybody stays on target, we walk through this thing. I've been through many of them, and it doesn't matter here. Whatever the council wants. I thought maybe somebody wants Saturday, maybe we don't. Maybe we want the 4 budget hearings in the evening. That's fine, whatever. Just giving some options here. But if we did it on a Saturday, it'd be very structured. So these guys aren't sitting here overlapping and we go on and on. That would be carried over into the council meeting before the budget, or the two meetings before. So just a thought. I would like to vote, but I mean,
Is there a further discussion? You need to turn off your light. Alderman Nichols? Okay, sure. Well,
I understand that the evening times are sometimes inconvenient. I think, although I do think that they give the public a fair opportunity to weigh in on things that are important to them, and it's also respectful of staff time. I would also like to keep my Saturday for hanging out with my family, just my personal preference, and be here listening to budget presentations when they're sleeping. Thank you.
Alderman Marshall. Oh, I'll get it eventually. Alderman Spencer.
Two last names. That's fine. I have a question. I'm going to be out of town on the 24th, so would we have a quorum here? Do we have enough people that would be here to have a quorum?
that's why. That's why. And that's why I think it's important in the future that we get out our calendars, pick a date, make sure it works with everybody, and we go from there.
Is there any further discussion? If not, could we have a roll call vote, please? Oh, sorry, I should mention, this is a roll call just on the amendment to include 9 a.m.
To include 9 a.m., this is the amendment.
Yeah. So, okay, we're going to start over. This is just to amend the ordinance to include the start time of 9 a.m. Is it 4-4? Yes. I'll vote to approve it so we don't have to take another vote.
Okay, motion on the amendment carried on roll call, 5-4.
Okay. Okay, so this is the important amendment motion now. This is to approve the ordinance as amended to include the 9 a.m. start time. So, and we're ready to go. If we could, there'll be the 4 nights. If you vote yes, it would be the 1. Just push both.
Yeah, whichever one comes up.
Motion fails on roll call, 2-6.
Okay. Items 5 and 6 are not germane because we held the other ordinance further up.
Excuse me.
Item 7 is Resolution 32, celebrating 35 years of municipal joint action for public power utilities. Do we have a motion, Dan? Since you sponsored it?
Yep. Dan sponsored it. This is for a recommendation of the Utility Commission. Okay. There's a motion and a second on the floor. Is there further discussion on this item? Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Oh, okay. We got a second. Okay. Item L is appointments. The council appointment to the Water and Light Commission. I noticed that we didn't get a name on there. Jim Smolinski is interested in James Smolinski. His resume is in there. I do have a letter of interest from him as well. Unfortunately, the letter didn't make it on time. He would be, this person would be replacing Joanne Roush on the Utility Commission if approved. Yes, that one. I don't know why the name didn't appear on the appointment, on the agenda. So, do we have a motion? Alderman Zielinski?
We'll make a motion to pass to appoint Jim Zielinski to a Light Commission. I don't know what the term is. Zielinski.
It's a 5-year term.
5-year term from when to when? When would he start? Well,
No. No, it's a 5-year term beginning
I have
October
another
1st.
question on that.
Okay, so there's a motion. Is there a second? Second. Okay, there's a motion and a second. Now you can ask your question.
Shouldn't we make this like a 2-year or a 3-year term?
It's a charter ordinance. You'd have to make the change in the charter ordinance, but you could propose that. So there's a motion and a second to approve the appointment of James Smolinski to the Water and Light Commission. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Yeah.
I'm not calling him tonight. Item 2 is reappoint. Yes, there we go. The reappointment of Lisa Hopwood to the Park and Recreation Board. Is there a motion? Oh, Alderman, I'm losing it too. I'm sorry.
Thanks. I'll make a motion to reappoint Lisa Hopwood, 1028 Manitoba Street, to the Parks and Recs Board for the term of 10/1/2015 to 10/1/2018.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? The motion carries. Item N is public comment on any matter listed on the agenda. Okay.
It probably died. Yeah.
Kyle, 1831 Lakeshore Drive. I've been asked to read a statement from the owners of Germania. I'm Bob Dove, one of 2 owners of Germania Hall, along with Rich Badley. We're very disappointed in the action of the council this evening on R3515 regarding the purchase of 70-some parking stalls at 320 Chute Street. We've been negotiating in good faith with the city of Menasha since early June of this year. At the very outset of these negotiations, we were asked by the city if we would permit employees of the McClone organization to use Germania's parking lot. We agreed to allow this, and beginning August 1st, the city has, in effect, met its obligation to McClone for its displaced parking by our good graces and at our expense. We have an amended and accepted offer to purchase dated August 27th, signed by the owners and a representative of the city of Menasha. A councilman was quoted in Sunday's Post-Crescent saying that the elephant in the room, the city's obligation to provide 120 parking stalls for the McClone Company, has been ignored during discussions on the downtown development. We're forced to say that the elephant is now sitting in the laps of this council. As of Tuesday, October 6th, the Germania Hall parking lot will be closed to all vehicles, and private property notices will be posted on both Chute Street and Broad Street, warning that unauthorized vehicles will be towed at the owner's expense. The McClone organization has been informed of this possibility. The city will be receiving an invoice for rental of the 72 stalls commencing August 1st with billing through October 5th. We will be meeting with our legal representative to determine the possibility of initiating a breach of contract for failure to uphold the accepted offer to purchase document dated August 27, 2015. Thank you for your time. So now I'm going to speak as myself, the Community Development Director. Tell me what I'm to do tomorrow morning when those 70 people that are parking in McCone's lot every day are kicked off of that lot. Where are they going to park? Give me that answer so that I can tell them that tomorrow. I would be very much appreciative if that information were forwarded to me so I can answer that question. Thank you. You'll have to sit here because of my...
I guess I just wanted to comment on a couple of things that were brought to light when we were talking about the trail and the trail system that's going in to loop the Little Lake. I know that the mayor made a comment, you know, and actually scolding the council for the debates we had on this topic and why it's such a hard decision to make when it seems like such a generous and positive thing for the city to do. One of the comments that the mayor said is, you know, all we're going to do is have bikes riding down these trails. What is the hard part? What is, you know, what is the hold up here? I guess I come to you as a person that lives on the waterfront, a person that lives adjacent to one of the green spaces that is public property, and I assure you that there's more that goes on than people just riding their bikes through the area. If this was the case, why would we have bathrooms that are closed due to vandalism? If it was just bikes riding through, why would the town of Menasha have to put security cameras up at Fritzie Park if it's just bikes riding through? I know they've had repeated problems with vandalism that was cured and all but eliminated when they put surveillance cameras on their end of the trestle trail. And if it's just bikes riding through, then why, I'm gonna have to look at my notes here. So if it's just bikes riding through and there's no other issues, why were all the garbage cans pulled from the parks due to illegal dumping? Is anyone going to contest that that's why the garbage cans were removed from our parks, because we can't afford to maintain them? They're being used for purposes other than their intended purpose. And I don't think it's the bike riders coming through, you know, throwing electronics into garbage cans. You know, the fact is the public behaves the way they do in public places, and you can't change that. The city's got to plan around the way the public is using these facilities. And, you know, the fact is, I live at one of these places where there's public access at the dead end to my street, and people are constantly walking into my yard, they're wandering into my yard, they're peeing behind my trees, they're drinking, they're throwing their garbage around, and it's not just people riding their bikes. And in regards to the parking issues that were brought forward at these trailheads that James Taylor talked about, you say that people riding bikes don't need parking. How do mothers in their baby strollers get down to these trailheads and get onto these trails? Because if you view the trestle trail, you will see a lot of the people that park there and use that parking are mothers getting their babies out of their cars, getting their strollers out of their cars. They're not coming there on bikes. They're coming there walking with little children, and little children aren't taking their bikes through the city and crossing streets. They want to be on the trail. So I think there's a lot more that needs to be considered than when putting these public trails into people's yards, that it's not just going to be someone passing through on a bike. There's a lot of other things that go on with that when a trail is open for 24 hours a day and the police can't see the trail from the street. Who's protecting the citizens? Who's protecting the property owners? The other caveat to that, living next to public property, I have had a realtor at my house trying to give me a fair market value of my house, and this is a realtor that specializes in only waterfront property. None of his clients purchase anything but waterfront property. He would not even take my listing because of the public access adjacent to my property where I live, because none of his clients want to deal with the public. Putting these trail systems in, you're not taking into account the property value and how that's going down for the people that own these properties next to this public access. It's not raising our property value to do it, but yet our tax dollars are being used on these projects. And I find it very upsetting that, I don't know, I've heard twice here, you know, what are the developers, what are these investors think about Menasha? We renege, we do this, we do that. Why isn't this council thinking about the taxpayers and doing what's good for the taxpayers? I've known several people that have stuck thousands and tens of thousands of dollars into their property on these lakeshore homes, and it's not reflected in the value of their property. It's not. You know, where is this council and where are these decision makers worrying about the value of my property and what my tax dollars are going to, when the thing that I hear here, the message I get at this table is, what does our investors think? What are the developers? What are they going to think? You know, where are the people protecting the taxpayers? You come here and you ask for more money and more money and more money because you have already made agreements to spend it before you even have it. And then you end up in a situation like we have today. And everybody's, you know, scratching their heads what they're going to do when the alarm clock goes off at 6 o'clock tomorrow. You know, that to me is very upsetting, that this money is getting spent, you know, before it's even collected from the taxpayers. And I've spent the last week talking to council members, those that will talk to me, and those that I could get information from. And it has been very difficult, and I think it's been shown here in this meeting how difficult it is to decipher exactly what's being voted on, what the ramifications are. People are coming unprepared, you know, and you ask why votes are changing and things are evolving. It's because they're going to the people and they're asking the people. They're taking the information that they can get and trying to represent their neighborhoods and their districts. And that's why these things are evolving. You know, you've got to give the people a chance to voice their concerns about where their tax dollars are going. And I don't see that happening, and I don't see the council getting enough time to go out and research for themselves or even talk to their neighborhoods, you know, on thousands and thousands and hundreds of thousands of dollars that you're asking us to give you in the next year and a half. I had one other thing. Let me see. I think that was all that I took notes on, so thank you.
Thank you.
Once again, my name is Tyler Damo. Now, earlier, of course, as she pointed out, there were comments made. Good senators, governors, presidents, anyone who is elected to serve and represent someone asks tough questions to represent those people that they serve. Whether they are down low on a small city or town government or way up at the federal government. I understand it's not fun to talk about the negative things in life. But do you think that our Congress, that our president sit there every morning when they wake up and deal with these issues on a daily basis, that they go, oh, well, you know, it's good. All the good things, you know, they don't sit there and go, oh, well, you know, we haven't had a massive attack on U.S. soil in over a week. They talk about the bad things to expect and look forward into the future of the community and the country that they serve. I know, you know, you might not feel like it's good to ask these tough questions sometimes, and you might feel a little bit afraid to. Stand up for the people you represent. You need to make sure that they are being protected, because they're the ones who pay for you to sit here. They elect you to sit at that table. So you should give them the answers and to make sure that you are protecting them above everything else. Not company owners, not industries out of the city. You know, it's nice to have a trail with Nina. It's nice, okay? But when Menasha's putting a bill, and whether we like to admit it or not, our downtown is being blindsided in that. People who come to these trails are not here to come shop at our downtown. They're coming to go on the trail. That doesn't mean that they're going to take the time out of their day to stop and go through our downtown and walk in that area. Those are my comments.
Thank you. At this point, do we have a motion to recess to the Administration Committee and the Board of Public Works? Is there a second? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?